What's going on, everybody? It is time for another episode from your favorite guys, or maybe two of your favorite guys, and one guy you just put up with. Ain't that right, gentlemen? Good to see y'all, brothers. Y'all all right?
What it do? What it do? Good.
Man, I tell you, just a walking billboard, ain't he? Look at him. God has not given spirit of fear.
Hello.
That's I tell you, be ye always ready. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. Listen, man, this is episode 9.
Crazy.
And boy, we got we and listen, we just now hitting the surface on this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I'm excited about what we're about to talk about today, man, because all we're here to do is get some clarity. That's it. That's all we're here to do, man. Get some clarity, man. So I'm not gonna waste time. We just gonna jump into this thing. Gentlemen, if you would please stand and turn your Bibles to what we turn our Bibles to? Matthew. There it is, Matthew.
Only two of us can.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry, brother. Have a seat. Yes, sir. Thank you. Matthew. We're going to Matthew. Let me get there ready, and we'll be in chapter 6.
All right.
All right. We're talking about you can't love both. And here Jesus is giving us the opportunity to be able to expound upon his words. And so the Bible reads in Matthew 6, verse 19, don't store up treasures here on earth where moth eat and rust destroy them, and where thieves break in and steal. Store your treasures in heaven where moth and rust cannot destroy and thieves do not break and steal. Wherever your treasure is, there the desires of your heart will be also. I think somebody better listen to. I got my help coming. All right, let's keep it going. It says your eye is like a lamp that provides light for your body. When your eye is healthy, your whole body is filled with light. But when your eye is unhealthy, your whole body is filled with darkness.
Read.
And if the light you think you have is actually darkness, come on here. How deep is the darkness? How deep that darkness is? Now, one can serve two masters. Yes, sir. No one can serve two masters. But no. Okay.
Come on, preacher. Preacher.
Yes, sir. You know I did it. Don't mess with this. He says, but you will hate one and love the other. You will be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and be enslaved to money. All right. Listen, this gonna be interesting because we still ain't got where I want us to be about that money yet, but we'll get there. But I want to start here. So gentlemen, I want to address a couple of things before we take these other scriptures into thought. Don't store up treasures here on earth. Store your treasures in heaven. How can we see that as a contrast? Well, what you know what? Now hold on. No, before I get y'all go there, I need the professor to come in because he brought up a good point. And we'll go down here to 24 because I want us to know that when we're talking about this money, the Greek brings up a different definition. So it says you cannot love God and serve God and be enslaved to money. But you said that word translates into another false god.
Correct. And that would be Mammon.
Now, please, brother, tell us who the god of Mammon was.
Yeah, so the word Mammon is a common Aramaic word for riches, right? Always used in that context. And it's akin to a Hebrew word that means to be firm or steadfast. In other words, that which is to be trusted. And it's known among the Chaldeans, all in the ancient East, personified as a deity, right? We know that all the the children of Israel dealt with all different types of deities back in the day. From the Canaanites, the Hivites, all of those, they worship these false gods. And so it is commonly, just as wisdom is personified in Proverbs chapter 8, right? They talk of wisdom as a person. So it is the same contrast when it comes to this issue of mammon.
Now, let's take our time with that, because let's make that clear. So what you're saying, the personification of wisdom throughout the book of Proverbs, the Bible refers to the wisdom as her.
That's right.
And that's the personification. So now you said, as it is for Matthew chapter 6, verse 24, you said the word money is a personification of a deity by the name of Mammon.
That is correct.
Very interesting. Okay. So now that makes a lot of sense, because now we're talking about clearly you cannot have another God before me.
Right. Exodus chapter 20.
Okay. All right. So now, since we know we have established that there is a contrast between loving God or loving this God of greed, Mammon, now let's go back to verse 19 and talk through this thing. So here it is. Now this is beautiful, you all, because now we get to understand why he is contrasting so many different times in these scriptures. So the first contrast is, don't store up treasures here on earth, but yet store up your treasures in heaven. That's a contrast. Okay, so then let's talk through that. Here we have this contrast. And again, we're not practicing this at all. Now, again, I'm not going to take that rabbit hole, but we're not. But what do we see in this moment? Y'all go ahead.
Real, Marcus.
I thought what you brought up was interesting, Aaron, in the sense of if this is talking about, in context, if this is talking about another God, then it changes the whole narrative of material things.
Mm-hmm.
Because money in itself is not wrong.
That's right.
But the love of it, putting it before God. And I think that if we put anything before God, it could be a God.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You know what I mean? But if this is not talking about putting anything before God, but this is actually talking about a person or another deity, then that changed the whole narrative of the context of what it's saying.
1000%. So can we just for a second, since you brought that up, let's point out the fact that there were fertility gods that they worship.
That was Baal. Mm-hmm.
Right. There were rain gods. So because again, I want to paint the picture for you all, so that now that you can see that there is demonstration of people worshiping false gods. And again, I appreciate what you two have made clear. It's not money itself.
Mm-hmm.
It's the worship of the god of greed.
Yes.
And we're going to get into this.
And I want to throw another plug out there. This association with Mammon as a deity is contrasted with the Greek, who the Greek knew as Plutus. Plutus was the god of gluttony and
food. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, gluttony in general, and over obsessive,
overindulging anything.
Okay. Yeah, Plutus was known for that, and so Mammon falls in that. When it is personified, falls in that same category as other cultures recognize different deities.
Right.
So let me get this straight so I can get an understanding. Are you saying, Aaron, that Mammon in its deity is not necessarily money, but it's what word you just used, Brenton? The greed. the greed of money, not necessarily the deity in this context is not money, but the greed of it, or the
Right.
greed of anything, the greed of anything to be exact.
Right. It's not if I pulled out a dollar bill, this is mammon. Now, again, the Aramaic word used, it does mean riches and materialism. But the way that it's used here, they say it is, different scholars say that it is in the same way contrasted as Proverbs. It's a personification of said thing.
So let's open it up. Let's open it up. Let's go to
Yeah, because if that's the case, then we as Christians shouldn't want to have anything to do with another deity. Meaning that we shouldn't even be associated with money.
But think about this. Think about that Asherah pole that they would never get rid of. Right? They would do very well, but they would always struggle with that Asherah pole, that sexual immorality, right?
Right, but the Asherah pole in itself is
that's what represented the immorality, the pole.
Right, but in it, the pole in itself was an abomination, or the pole in itself wasn't
the God. That was the idol.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That was the idol.
Yeah.
Right.
So the money is not like he said. Money, the dollar bill, the cash, it does not represent mammon. It's the motive, and that's why we're going to go to Ecclesiastes.
Right. So that's okay. That's the understanding that I'm trying to get at. It's not money in itself, but it's the motive behind.
It's the relationship that you're having, right? The love for, and so that's why we're going to go to Ecclesiastes.
Right. Okay.
Let's go here. So let's go to 5. So it says, those who love money, I'm at Ecclesiastes 5 and 10, will never have enough. That's a behavior.
Mm-hmm.
In the opposite of a person that is not satisfied with not having enough money, that is a lack of contentment.
Mm-hmm.
See, it says those who love money, that they have a certain type of behavior. And what type of behavior is that? They never feel like they have enough. Mm-hmm. That person then could be, you got a little mammoneth on you. Hey, you got some on your eye. You got some mammon on your eye. What? Yeah. Again, right? Let's keep going. How meaningless to think that wealth brings true happiness. The more you have, the more people come to help you spend it. So what good is wealth except perhaps to watch it slip through your fingers? People who work hard sleep well, whether they eat little or much. But the rich seldom get a good night's sleep. There is another serious problem I have seen under the sun, and that's hoarding riches harms the savor. Okay, that's a lot. So I just want to start showing there is a contrast even in scripture where you now have an opportunity to see how am I behaving. Mm-hmm. Is it, again, here we are in the 21st century. Everybody feels like we are so close to having so much success. We want 2 and 3 jobs. We want more overtime. We're looking, we are praying to God for him to increase our ability to make money. But that sounds like an issue when you come to Ecclesiastes 5 and 10. For a person who loves money will never feel like they have enough. What say you, gentlemen?
Yeah, so again, like we said, it is the worship of money, right? It is, like I said, it's akin to a Hebrew word that means to take confidence in, right? And as believers, we're called to live by faith,
right?
And as we're sitting here talking about this, I'm reminded of when he started providing manna for them in Exodus chapter 16. He said, on 6 days, for 6 days you'll gather, but on the 7th day, don't gather anything, right? On the 6th day, make sure you gather enough to cover you for the 7th day, right? So he taught them how to be prepared. However, when they didn't listen and they gathered more than they were supposed to, more than what they needed, it began to spoil.
Yep.
Right? Or did they complain?
No, that's when they were cheating. Like
That's
when
when
they
they would.
they took more when they were trying to hoard it because they were like, nah,
Gotcha.
this ain't gonna last me. And then
Okay.
it started decaying and rotting
Because
immediately.
let's remember, they oftentimes said, listen, we used to sit around pots of meat. So they were accustomed to having
Food
all
buffets.
you can reach out like you reaching out on your nightstand. You know what I'm saying? Like it's right there. And then now you've got us out here and you want us to wait a minute. I can't just reach out and grab it. Now I got to trust you for the seventh day. That's a behavior that had to be unlearned.
Correct. Yeah. Pharaoh had Golden Corral on the one.
Yeah.
And that's bad, right? It taught behavior, like, because again, an undisciplined person sitting at a buffet, they're gonna always think that they're hungry.
Yeah.
Because they want more, especially when it's at your fingertips. Okay, so let's just jump. Okay, so again, yeah, go ahead.
No. I was gonna say what I'm seeing in the context of what the scriptures that we're going over, is more or less of nothing wrong with having more than enough, but trusting in the more than enough.
Okay.
Priorities.
Right. So there's nothing wrong with obtaining or having storage, but it's trusting in the storage that you have. So Matthew 19, Matthew 16, 19 through 24 is more or less about being generous more than it is, oh, you shouldn't have a whole bunch.
Okay, so let's go to First Timothy then, because this, and then again, don't get me wrong, I believe all of us are guilty of it. That's why man should never say we live without sin, because even in the things we think is okay, no, Jesus said again, it's almost to the point of where Jesus is trying to prove the point about people setting their own bars of morality. Right. So Jesus said, y'all say if you touch a person sexually, that's wrong. No, I say if you look at somebody. So where they set the bar here, no, Jesus said no, even if you look, you've done worse. So again, in this moment, Jesus is telling us, no, don't store up any treasure in heaven, because moth and rust will see it decayed. Let's partner that with First Timothy chapter 6. Right? It says verse 6, 1 Timothy 6, verse 6. It says, yet true godliness with contentment it's, excuse me, let me back up. Let me go to verse 5. It says, these people always cause trouble. Their minds are corrupt, and they have turned their backs on the truth. To them, a show of godliness is just a way to become wealthy. And we'll touch that in just a second. It says, yet true godliness with contentment is itself great wealth. After all, we brought nothing with us when we came into the world, and we can't take anything with us when we leave it. So if we have enough food and clothing, let us be content. All I'm saying is, I'm not saying that I think you're a bad person. I think I'm a bad person because we got more than enough. I just feel like that if we're going to be honest about scripture, that still is a space that Jesus tells us we probably should back away from, because in reality, where do we put our faith in? If you are accumulating more things, that means think about this, Marcus. When you have somebody who got a raise on their job, what's the first thing we try to tell people not to do? Raise your debt. But what do people normally do when they get more money? They go get them a new, nicer car. They say, oh, I qualify for a better house. And then all of a sudden, we look what Timothy says. We think that godliness is just a way to become wealthy. And it's not.
Right. Which is why I believe that it's more. It's not dealing with not having. It's not saying that we shouldn't want more, nor is it saying that we shouldn't want to raise. All of us, if it was up to us, we would love to have more added on to our weekly uh, income. But I think it has to deal with what are you doing with the more that you have. That's why, in order for so the context of Matthew 16:19, it says that don't store, meaning that storing means it's just sitting there.
Right.
You're just putting it in one spot and it's just sitting there. And if it's just sitting there, then mouse and all these other things can have their way with things that are just sitting there.
Matter of fact, Ecclesiastes called it hoarding.
Hoarding,
Right.
exactly, right,
We've seen hoarders.
right.
Right.
Which when you have that mindset of hoarding, if you go on what you read, you know, unhealthy. When you have more than or things are just sitting there, it begins to develop over time. It begins to become unhealthy. It begins to develop, unhealthy things.
You have
right,
a closed fist.
right,
There's no generosity in your heart.
That's
You
right.
will
right.
see
So
somebody in need and you won't give it to them.
exactly, because your love is your love is not what your love is having more than depending on the one that gave you the more than.
Well, because we
Right.
think that God is in the blessing. Like, again, when you think that other people think that God is blessing you because you got a 3-story house, 8 bedrooms, you got 3 cars in the. That's not the blessings of God. That's you trying to
And that's cool. I don't want to paint the picture that if that's not what you want for yourself, then or you shouldn't have the best of whatever you can get. But along with what you're getting, what are you giving with your getting? And I think that's the context of what Matthew was talking about. What are you willing? The things that you have stored up. Are you willing to be generous to give out what you have stored up so I can continue to flow through you, give through you so that you can continue to give instead of you just taking, storing it up. And he goes on to say at the end of the chapter, he said, don't worry, because worrying causes anxiety in order for us to hold on. That's why we don't want to let go, because we're worried. I may not have enough for tomorrow. When we talked about the children of Israel a while ago, I'm worrying because I'm not willing to give this to those that need or give out of my abundance because I don't know what next week is going to look like. So now you're worrying about what you're going to eat, what you're going to drink. He said, don't, if I can supply the birds of the air and the lilies of the field, then I will take care of your needs. Give out of your abundance, and you will see me take care of your needs. So again, I don't think it's not saying that we shouldn't have abundance or we shouldn't desire more. I think it's us not putting our faith or our love for the more that we have that keeps us from being generous.
So the only way that I'll say I'll disagree with you respectfully is only because, just to take the scripture just a step further, like the only way you can, how does one store up their treasures in heaven unless we are giving more of what we have here on earth? Like that's the only way you can store up treasures in heaven. So for instance, this is my pushback to what you're saying. Think about when Jesus went into the temple and they were sitting around, it was offering time and they was going around. And again, dudes was giving, but he said, who gave the most? The woman that barely had anything. Right. So for me, she didn't have nothing. She didn't give out of her abundance, out of her play money, the money she got, that she got for rainy day. No, she gave all that she had. Thus, Jesus says she gave more than everybody did. That's a secret for me to say, okay, and don't get me wrong, whatever I have, I'm willing to give as God leads me. Thus,
Right.
being a cheerful giver. So I think to whom much is given, then much may be required of you. And so that's for me, that's what I'm saying. And so the only way you can store up treasure in heaven is that you're willing to give of what you have here on earth. And that's how I see it.
Right. And but I'm saying the same thing, but in context to what you were saying, the lady, she was giving to God. And so she was giving out of her lack to the Father. But in this verse, it's talking about giving to one another.
I still
So
think
I'm
giving to God though.
It is given to God, but it's not giving in the context of Matthew, is giving from your abundance. That's why it says don't store up treasures. It doesn't say we're not supposed to have treasures. It's just saying that we're not supposed to store it from a place of not being generous, right? When I read this, the first thing I thought about is Mark chapter 10, verse 17, the rich young ruler. We all know that story, right?
We're gonna get to him. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're gonna get to him.
Okay.
Go ahead, Dominic.
No,
You good? Okay.
I'm good. Yeah.
Yeah. Was it Mark 10, Mark what 10 and what?
17.
Mark 10, 17 through 21.
Yeah, we'll get to him. Yeah.
And while we're flipping there, I just want to be clear again. The term mammon in itself, as Jesus uses it, is not Jesus saying that it is a deity. Over time, scholars have personified it as such, but Jesus himself did not call it a deity there. It just is translated as money or material gain.
Right.
Okay.
Just so we're clear. Yeah.
No, I got you. Yeah, that's good. So I'm not going to Mark just yet because I want to open up a little bit more of Matthew right quick. So it says, wherever your treasure is, there the desires of your heart will be also. And again, that speaks to your motive, your purpose. Like my heart's desire is to be the hands and feet of Jesus to whoever. And thus that partners with what God is. But if my heart is on me trying to, again, what Ecclesiastes says, gather this wealth, hoard it for myself so that people can see me and say, oh man, God blessing him. And then thus they have that spirit of what's the 10 Commandment? Covetousness, right? See, we had it real bad in social media. That's what everybody does, right? They pretend to have things that then thus it bothers the other people that's watching, and they just is broke, busted, and disgusted. You leaning to the side? What you want to say?
No, but I was gonna say gathering and hoarding is two different things.
We
can gather things with the intent to give those things that we gather away.
Sure.
But hoarding again is I'm putting it in this one particular spot and I'm not doing anything with it.
Okay. No,
I think that's what scripture is talking about.
Yeah, we won't mince words. I hear you. And I think and what I'm saying is I look at someone like that as a hoarder is a closed fist. You have your heart is not generous. You see somebody in need, you're gonna look the other way.
Right.
You know, even if and you could have $100 in your pocket and you wouldn't even give them $10.
Right.
Right. So, yeah. So we don't have to go in the back and forth there because I'm with you. I'm just saying that's for me. I'm just seeing what he's saying. If we're putting our standard here, he's just saying no, it's here. And again, I believe. People don't want to give their stuff away. Y'all know my heart, so y'all know you. I'm not speaking as though I have not done. So I'm saying like I'll do things like that just because I know I can't keep it. I ain't gonna. If I die tomorrow, that's it. You know what I'm saying? That's just that's how I believe. So that's how I behave. That's all I'm saying. So yeah. Okay.
So
Where?
so,
Okay.
so
Yeah.
with that, yeah, with you talking about where your treasure is, there your heart is.
Yeah.
Two things come to mind. The first being, you hear people say all the time, well, the Lord gonna give you the desires of your heart. Well,
Mm-hmm.
there's a problem if your desire is not Him.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like Solomon got it right at first in 1 Kings chapter 3. He prayed for wisdom, right?
Mm-hmm.
So God gave him wisdom. He said, because you didn't ask for riches, you didn't ask for wealth and all this stuff, I'm gonna give it to you anyway, right? So he had the wisdom, but he failed to apply it. And so then in Ecclesiastes, we see this is what happens when the priority is misplaced.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And it reminds me of what he told them in Deuteronomy chapter 6. He said, and we know it, Jesus quotes it. He says, verse 5, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength. So again, it's got to be a matter of priority. And then that will affect whatever else you do. Because Solomon says, you know what I'm saying? Guard your heart, for everything that you do flows from that place. So with Jesus giving the contrast of either serving one master, God, or money, if God is the priority, then your behaviors will flow from that. They won't stem in hoarding, right? But even if you got a little bit in that savings account, and the Lord say, hey, you meet somebody and they say, hey, man, my car busted. I need $500. And you got 550. And the Lord say, hey, man, this is the time. You know what I'm saying? You're not closing your fist, but you're saying, okay, cool. Because you understand that it ain't you. Your money is not the object of your trust. He is.
Right.
So just to, as we lead up to this, the rich young ruler, I want to go to Deuteronomy chapter 17, and I want to begin to lay this groundwork right quick, if I can. It says, I'm at verse 16 in Deuteronomy chapter 17. It says, no, I'll start at 15. If this happens, be sure to select a king, the man the Lord your God chooses. You must appoint a fellow Israelite. He may not be a foreigner. The king must not build up a large stable of horses for himself or send his people to Egypt to buy horses. For the Lord has told you, you must never return to Egypt. The king must not take many wives for himself, because they will turn his heart away from the Lord. And he must not accumulate large amounts of wealth in silver and gold for himself. That's what God intended for any king that was going to hold a position in his nations, Israel, Judah, whoever. Those are the stipulations that he brought up for them. I want to push to 1 Corinthians chapter 5, and I want to make this statement, and then we'll shoot the homeboy. 1 Corinthians chapter 5. I want to start at verse 10, and I think I'm only reading 10. So it says this. It says, but I wasn't talking about unbelievers who indulge in sexual sins, or are greedy, or cheat people, or worship idols. You would have to leave this world to avoid people like that. So he's saying unbelievers, people that live and indulge in sexual sin, and unbelievers are greedy and they cheat people. There's that mammon, the mode of greediness. So in two different spots, I'm showing you consistently that my position is that it's not intended for us to accumulate wealth, be greedy, again, closed fist, have no generosity, But then to your point, let's go to Mark now, chapter 10, because this guy, we can just talk about again the heart, the motive, right? He's struggling because he's trying to figure out how to gain access to this thing called salvation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So to Marcus's point, Marcus, he says this: I did all the laws. What else?
Mhm.
Okay. Sell everything you have. I can't do that, bro. What about the whole 10 Commandments? All of I can't do that.
Mhm.
Well, he said you already did that. But
Mhm.
but what he exposed is you're not willing to part ways with the treasures of the earthly treasures.
With where your heart is.
Right. Which then
Right.
tells us where your heart is. Right.
Mhm.
Which then so here's the truth. Even in your desires, if your heart, man, this is crazy, because if your heart is showing you're taking the path of greed, then the only desire you're going to want out of your heart is the desire that in the path that you're taking of greediness. And I believe
Right.
that Jesus, go ahead, yeah.
No. I was just saying right.
Yeah, so again, and then Jesus is saying, well, in order for you to give the love, the desire for me, you're gonna have to let that go, because I brought that up in Matthew. Like you're gonna have to hate one and love the other. Right. And here's the beauty in that moment. Why does there's the contrast again. It's not, love one and just make sure you don't take it too far with the other. The problem is about that for me is that for this rich young ruler, number one, that money gave him influence. That's what money does. If you have a lot of money, now, Marcus, you are resident hip hop artist. Now, which one of them rappers tell you back then they didn't want me?
Now I'm hot. Now they
all on me, right?
Mike Jones,
right?
Mike Jones.
Right?
Mhm.
And I heard a woman say Jay-Z only look good because all them $1 billion he's sitting on.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Right?
How do you have a regular job like me and you?
Hey man, listen. Yes, sir.
They gonna call him Nova.
So that's right. That's funny. So my point is like money has an ability to make people want to do more things for you, and that's the love, right? If love is patience, kind, it does not give an account of wrong. You will do certain things when it comes to money that you wouldn't do for Christ. See, you'll forgive somebody if they paying your mortgage more than you would for somebody who is living rent-free in your house, in my opinion. Now, there's some, again, these are scenarios, but I'm just painting a broad stroke here. That's why we have to choose the path in which we want to take, because they're both difficult. Contentment is not easy. It's just as difficult as the path to success and happiness is just as difficult as the path to humility and contentment. What say y'all?
Because everything around you, if you're taking the path of contentment and peace, literally, you can't see that with your eyes in the culture that we live in.
Oh,
the
no.
We live in is me, mine, work 3-4 jobs, get what you got to get. Again, because you're running this rat race for what? And Jesus even says, to your point of 1 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 10, he says at the end of this chapter, when Marcus brought it up earlier about don't worry about these other things, right? He says the Gentiles run after these things. Mm-hmm. I.e. unbelievers, they chase these things because they don't acknowledge God as the source. You know what I mean? And so, no, it's not easy by any stretch of the imagination, because the culture says, no, they've made it easy, right? With credit cards and bank loans and payday loans. You got people losing their house, losing their cars. You know what I'm saying? For title long, because they're not satisfied, and it just really reveals the state of their heart, which is
right.
the Lord doesn't have their heart. And that's not a slight at anybody, because again, at one time, I believe we've all been there. You know what I'm saying?
And
To
still
where we,
struggle sometimes.
yeah, well, we chasing
Right.
that money. And I'm reminded of what Paul said in Romans 6 when he's talking about the new nature. He's like, listen, you don't have to give, now that you've been saved through Jesus Christ, you don't have to give any part of your body to sin. So if it's greed that you're struggling with, you don't have to give your body to that, right? You don't have to submit to that as your master any longer.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I believe that it's a fundamental, again, this is discipleship 101.
Oh, 100%.
This is the Sermon on the Mount, right? Jesus goes to chapter 7. He says, listen, he who listens to my words like a wise man that builds on a solid foundation.
Mm-hmm.
You hear me, but you don't take it, put it into practice. You're like a man building on the sand, right? This is the foundation of discipleship. And because we don't teach it, we teach that, well, God wants you to have this. And again, he does, but does it fit into his overall purpose, which is to reveal his son to the world?
And would you part ways with it if he asked you to?
That's right. And he trusts you.
Yeah, and I think that's the it's the heart of the individual, or where your love is for what you have. And I think a lot of times we think contentment is having less of.
No.
And right, and that's not the case, because Paul say, I know how to be content when I don't have, and I know how to be content when I have.
That's
So
right.
contentment, again, is the process of just accepting whatever state that you're in. And so we see this rich young ruler who the verse says, not just go sell it, but he said, go sell it and give it to the poor.
Yeah, because he could have sold and made money off of it.
Right. Give what you sell, and then give it to those that are less fortunate. Right. What you have, I don't have a problem with you having a lot. Right. But he's talking to Jesus, and Jesus understands who he's talking to. Jesus already sees his heart. That's why he says, go sell.
But it's
right.
risky. It's risky when you have a lot, though, because
it is risky, but it's not. It's not. What am I trying to say? It's not wrong. The Bible says, yeah, it's harder for a rich man. It don't mean that it's incapable for a rich man. It's just harder because when you have more, you trust more. That's why you have to give what you have.
Right.
That's why I don't have a problem with you having. I have a problem with you hoarding. I have a problem with you not giving.
Right. So when you use the word, when you talk about contentment, and it's not like you said, it's not him wanting you to be poor. I would then offer another word. It's you being satisfied. And I'm gonna tell you one thing that I've noticed just in where we are today.
But you can be satisfied rich.
Well, I mean, I hear what you're saying. I don't know if I agree wholeheartedly with that, because
you can be satisfied having a lot. I don't have to have, because of my position, my education, what the work ethic that I put in it have made me have this type of lifestyle. And that's okay. And that's cool. As long as I'm using this lifestyle to glorify God too. I can be rich and give to the poor. And that's okay.
I'm not, there's no argument here. It's just,
so when we see, let me say this and then I'm done. Most of the examples that we see in rich people is because they fail to give. We see this in Lazarus and the rich man. Every time he saw Lazarus in need, he just walked right by him. Right? Because of what he has caused him to treat what those that somebody else different. That's the heart of. It's not what he had; it was his heart that was wrong.
Yeah, again, I won't argue. I just won't completely agree. Only because there are certain things in scripture that leads me to believe again,
That we shouldn't have.
that in First Timothy, where wealthiness in itself does not bring about the godliness. It's contentment. So, and this is the point I was going to make. And again, it's not the argument. It's just my position, my point of view. So I hear your point of view. I'm just saying I take it differently. For instance, everybody says that they know God, and they take what they know, and then they go and then they create a life for themselves. Right? I know a family that lives in the same city I do, and they believe in a different God than I do. And they got a house, they got nice cars, they got good jobs. But there's at times we begin to see some of the decisions that they've made over time, and it's like, wow, yeah, you probably shouldn't have done that, right? Because it looks like that you're spending more money than you have. Thus, when a situation arose in their life, well, now one lost a job, then the other one lost a job. Different times. One is on unemployment right now, but they still got all of that debt that they got to pay. And it's like, yeah, man, life is not always going to be like that. So I don't pursuing contentment for me is being okay with my low level position at my job. And because I have learned to be a good steward and budget and make good financial decisions, I don't have to climb a ladder of success. So,
Right, but we don't have to. Why do we have to think that contentment means being okay with my low level? That's just That's just another form of process of contentment.
again, that's what I'm saying. That's just my point of
Like,
view.
like,
I'm
right,
not,
like
you know, I'm
Paul,
not broke.
right. No, I'm just what I'm saying. But I'm trying to say, like, we assume that when we're talking about contentment, we just assume that it's just whatever I got, just whatever as if
That's false humility for
it's
me.
not right. But it's not my obligation to desire or work for more. Again, Paul says, "I've learned the process of contentment. I know what it feels like. I can be content not having, and I can be content having."
Right. So can I show you the difference between what I'm saying in this moment? So if all things were equal, if there was another person just like me, the same amount of kids, making the same amount of money, contentment for me is I won't go get overtime because my son got a game. Contentment for somebody else is, or non-contentment for me is, "No, son, you go ahead. I need to go get this overtime because I just got this new truck and I got to make the payments." That for me is not contentment. That now I am taking away from my children, which I should be there for them, and I should make the sacrifice to say, well, don't buy that truck. Keep the one you got. Go spend time with your son. That's what I mean when I say one is and one ain't. And that's for me. So again, you're gonna pick up another job. Why? Because you saw your neighbor up the street just got a new Denali, and you still sitting with your, Toyota 4Runner, and you like, man, oh, you know what? Steve just said, man, that promotion coming in. I'm gonna have to do 12-hour days, 6 days a week. Do you really think you need to do that, buddy? And you got 2 kids in sports. Well, look, if I bring in more money, they get to go do more.
Right.
They need you.
Right.
They need you. So that's what I mean when I'm talking about what path you want to take and being content and not. I know that what's more important than money is my family. Thus, it sounds good that I could go do it, but to what detriment is it going to do for my family?
Right.
So that's
No, I get.
okay. So that's what I'm saying. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, that again. One more thing I want to bring up about this. You ain't gonna get it. Well, one more thing I'm gonna bring up about this contrast between you got to love one and hate the other is we got to relinquish. Money gives power, and again, for me, for me, when we no longer depend on God, we take matters into our own hands. And thus, again, I can see why money becomes a problem for people. The love of money becomes a problem for people.
Right. The love of
Because-
money.
Yes, because then you think, again, take our president before the current one. His money got him to say things and do things because guess what? People keep their mouth closed. So I'm gonna tell you something. A person that got money versus a person that got money, they know how to hoard cowards. Herd cowards. Jesus, he herds sheep. Cowards, what person that got money, they'll keep their mouth shut when they see something wrong. They'll turn their eye because they don't want to see something. Again, they'll take abuse.
A person that love money.
Yes, right, because they want to be around it, right? You know how the entourage, right? Even with Diddy, right? Everybody all of a sudden want to talk now. Now he finna get in trouble. Well, it's like, why y'all ain't been talking? Because he was taking care of y'all. And so that for me, it's a path we have to take. And again, I love the conversation because it just again, I'm just showing from my point of view what has to become more important because there are going to be paths or forks in the road that everybody's going to have to take. And that's whether or not, now again, if you a single person and or you and your wife, y'all empty nesters, sure, you can go do whatever you want to do. And again, but like Marcus is saying, just don't have a closed fist of generosity. Be there for people, help people. Listen, I promise y'all, there's going to be so many opportunities for us to help people right now, especially when this inflation gets to going a little bit more, and we may fall into this depression. There are going to be people that need our help, and we got to have this love. We can't be those people walking by that Samaritan, man, and that's all I'm getting at. You know what I mean? So, it's been good, man.
Yes, sir.
It's been real good. I think again, I think this is a good conversation starter. Again, I'm not here to try to fix the wheel. I'm not saying that I'm not telling you to be like, listen, unless Jesus come and tell you to sell all your possessions, but y'all give it to them preachers anyway. So I don't know what's the problem anyway. Again, anyway, I'm finna start messing with somebody, but I ain't gonna mess with them. I'll say this. No, I ain't gonna say that. Okay. Well, I will say this. There is a such thing as bad investing in the kingdom. And it's when you don't know, if you continue to store up your treasures on earth and you're not being generous and giving towards others, being the hands and feet of Jesus, you're not accumulating any treasures in heaven. It's just what it is. So, but anyway. All right, fellas. What you got?
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah, man. What you got, Aaron?
Yeah, man. Deuteronomy chapter 8, verse 17. Moses is writing for the children of Israel to remember the Lord. And he says, you may say to yourself, verse 16 says, he gave you manna to eat in the desert, something your fathers had never known, to humble you and to test you so that in the end it might go well with you. You may say to yourself, my power and the strength of my hands have produced this wealth for me. But remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you the ability to produce wealth, and so confirms his covenant, which he swore to your forefathers, as it is today. So my final thought is, if you are a believer and you are in a position where you do have a lot of money, you know what I'm saying? The time maybe you made some real good investments before you became a believer, or you've made good investments, you know what I'm saying, since you've been a believer, and now you do have a lot of money. Again, if there comes a point in your life where Jesus says, hey, can I trust you to give this away? This is what Jesus is talking about. Which one is more important? When you come to that fork in the road of, okay, I got an opportunity to be obedient to what Jesus is calling me to do in a moment, right? Or at this particular position in my life, or I can play it safe and hold on to my money. That's what Jesus is saying. You can't serve two masters. So again, if you got money, cool. We're not saying money's bad at all. However, the obsessive pursuit of money more than you pursue Jesus Christ, especially if you are a believer, now you start running the risk of idolatry. You know what I'm saying? And so just again, as long as we keep those priorities, listen, God is the one that gives us the ability to do it. You know what I'm saying? And so he gave me the ability to make it. So if he tells me to go on and give it away, that's what I got to do. As long as we keep that there, I think we'll be all right.
Yeah, man. My brother.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, I pick it back off what you said, Aaron. I think it's the heart of the individual. It's a heart matter. God wants to know that um, that He is your source. You know what I mean? But also He wants to prove to the world and to others that He's able to take care of His people. And so, since we've talked about Israel, let's talk about the fathers of Israel. He told God told those that didn't know Him, or God reaffirmed His name to those that He called by men that He blessed. He said, "I am the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob." So you don't know me, but you know these men. And so you should be able to look at their lives, and their lives should testify, right? Their lives should testify of the type of God that I am. He tells Israel what we're reading about on him too. Tells Moses, he says, "Let my people know that I hear their cry. I'm hearing I'm hearing, and I am their deliverer, and I'm gonna bring them into a land flowing with milk and honey. They're gonna live in houses they ain't even gotta build. They're gonna, you know what I mean? So again, it's not what we have, but it's the heart behind, or how we treat what we have. And so I say this is my final thought. It's okay to give out of your substance. It's okay to give out of our abundance, because God will continue to supply us when we give out of our abundance. Don't allow the need for material things to become the greed for material things.
Yeah.
That's the key. Don't allow the need for material things to put you in a place of greediness, which, like Aaron stated when we started, is a God.
Yeah. Yeah. Good stuff, man. Again, man, I think we have the secret to having good dialogue. We have relationships. And I think that's where there's no interjecting here. We're only investing in each other. And that's the problem. People can't have conversation because they don't have conversations with people they have a relationship with. They have conversation with strangers behind the keyboard. So again, that's why I appreciate this platform. We're not going to agree on everything, and even we may not see everything the same, but yet still we can have the conversation. So with saying that, I'm going to end in Ecclesiastes 5, but I'm going to jump down all the way to verse 18. It says, "Even so, I have noticed one thing, at least that is good. It is good for people to eat, drink, and enjoy their work under the sun during the short life God has given them, and to accept their lot in life. And it is a good thing to receive wealth from God and good health to enjoy it, to enjoy your work and accept your lot in life. This is indeed a gift from God." So yes, work, play, enjoy your life, have good health, but lastly, accept the lot that God has given you in your life. That's contentment. And I think however that looks for whoever, that's the balance that we're going to have in life. Yeah, we're going to make money. We're going to spend money. We're going to try to stay in good health. But ultimately, wherever God, whatever how's the song? Whatever my lot,
Thou hast taught
God
me.
has taught me to say,
It is well.
it is well with my soul.
Another songwriter said that all I have needed.
Yes, sir. Thy hand hath provided.
Yes, sir. Great is thy faithfulness.
Listen, y'all, that's episode 9. We've enjoyed it. Again, it's just a conversation starter. And we'll be back next week in episode 10, man. And it's gonna be a good one. I think we're on our way somewhere with this thing. So all right, brothers. Hey, man, I appreciate y'all, man.
Yes, sir.
Love you, bro.
Yes, sir. I love you too, man. See y'all next week.
All right.
All right.
Peace.
Later.